This program is underwritten in part by
Janelle Encarnacion Art. Carlos Furniture, a family-owned business, has been providing furniture, appliances, and household accessories since 1997. The flagship store on St. Croix and another on St. Thomas are both open for in-store shopping and are able to ship to various locations in the Caribbean.
and viewers like you. The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.
Welcome to the Bookcase. I'm your host, Shawna Richards, a sometime writer and a longtime reader. I invite you to join me as we explore the bookcase and celebrate Virgin Islands authors and talent. Each week on the Bookcase, we'll introduce you to a local author and learn more about them and their work. A storyteller lives in each of us, and I am so excited to give our homegrown storytellers a chance to tell their story. Tonight's selection from the Bookcase is When Storm Winds Blow, and I'm honored to welcome its author, Rick Grant. Rick, welcome to the Bookcase.
Thank you, Shawna.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, your book, When Storm Winds Blow, is this a first book for you? Is this your introduction into the literary market?
No, this is actually my fourth children's book. So I've been doing this for some time. I think I started writing to publish back in 2016. Prior to that, I just wrote for fun. Now it's it's purpose-driven. So this is the fourth one.
Is writing your passion?
It's always been a passion of mine from a young boy to just write. I started writing poems in school. I think my first one was about Sabrina, which my mother was going to have a baby and she had to be called Sabrina. So I wrote this poem. I ended up having a brother. It was fine. But that was the start of me actually just writing.
You say this is your fourth book.
Yes.
And all of your books are children's books.
Yes.
And we've spoken to you before. You were on our inaugural season of the Bookcase. Have you found your niche in children's literature?
I think I have. It's fun. It comes easy, and I think being able to write for children gets to empower them. So yes, I think I've found that niche.
In your bio, you talked about wanting to support literacy. Why is that so important to you?
Literacy is all around us. You can't do anything in life without being literate, literally. So the stoplights you have to know, you have to be able to read signs. So I think being able to give children a foundation just in general and then help them build and giving them books that they can see themselves in has really been exciting for me.
So when you were growing up, did you see children in books that looked like you?
No. Funny story, the Britannica encyclopedias were one of the first books that my parents had in the house, and literally it was black and white. So I didn't see myself.
Let's not age ourselves.
I know. I didn't see myself in books at all, but I read for purpose. Like, it was for school, it was for research. So now, many years after, being able to give children that where they're seeing themselves in books is really exciting for me.
When you tell a story or think that you want to tell a story, what is your motivation?
Empowerment. Empowerment for them to be able to connect the dots in life, whether it's careers, whether it's preparing for a storm, whether it's where people live, just being able to connect the dots for themselves and being able to put it down and come back to it a couple months after and still feel a sense of empowerment just by reading. So
this is your fourth book.
Yes.
How many years between publishing this one and publishing your first? How much time has passed?
So the first three, literally I wrote one time, but then I didn't publish them until a year or two after. And then this one, When Storm Winds Blow, it came out of Irma Maria. I was actually preparing for the storm. I was literally washing dishes, and the title came to me, When Storm Winds Blow. Now, you shouldn't do this at all, but I stopped preparing for the storm and started to document all the things that I was doing to prepare for the storm. And then the storm hit, and I consequently just kept writing and writing and writing. So it comes out of a love and just a sheer inspiration for whatever is happening around me at the time. And that was a good process for me.
So would you say that being able to focus on something else kept you from worrying about the storm?
It did, because I spent that whole couple hours just trying to figure out, okay, so now I'm playing games, I'm not playing games, power is out. I was just really just documenting what was happening so that I could have a well-rounded product.
When you're writing, where do you draw your inspiration from?
From around me. Whatever is going on at the time, I really pull in on that, and I look at how I can translate that to what a child would probably be processing in a couple of years or even at that moment. So how do I get to take the adult experience and not water it down, but just make it more relevant to a child?
With your title, When Storm Winds Blow, does it relate to an experience that you may have had as a child and something that you wanted to maybe normalize or take away the fear from as an adult?
So yes and no, because I grew up, and I'm going to age myself, so Hurricane Hugo, but I didn't get to experience it because I was in Tortola at the time, so I didn't really hit Tortola. So I heard about this storm, but it was just rain for me. So taking that experience that I had that I really didn't experience, and then fast forward now to as an adult, experiencing Irma Maria, I can connect the dots, and that was really the goal. And it didn't start out as a goal, but once I got into the writing process, I was like, yeah, this is going to be the goal. So once you get into the book, you realize there's a storm tracking sheet in it. We could kind of track the storm, and then there's storm questions. So it became more of a teachable tool as just a reading book, and it was really good.
So since your focus is on literacy, do you pay a lot of attention to vocabulary? Do you pay a lot of attention to the words that you use to make sure that they're age appropriate? What's your target audience? So
I like rhyme. So when I write, it just automatically comes with it rhymes. And then once I go back, I'm like, yeah, this word might be a bit too big, or I could try to find another word. So one of the examples is in this book, I use the word gut. And we spell gut G-H-U-T, which is the British version of it, or gut like your actual stomach, G-U-T. Or there's the gutter for the house. And once I was finished, person's like, I didn't recognize that there was literally different versions of this one word. So that's kind of like the process where making it make sense. And even adults are like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. So your target audience is
kindergarten. So I think it's like 6 to 11. 6 to 11 is the age group, yes.
You know, do you have young children who read your books and will say, well, Mr. Rick, I don't know about that?
So I was reading this particular book to some teenagers a couple of weeks ago for summer camp. And we were talking about the categories of storms. And I said there were like 5. And he was like, oh, no, sir, they're like 6. And I was like, oh. I learned something today. So yes, children teach me once I teach them, just by reading. So yes.
Do you have any tips for people who want to write, and I want you to answer that, and then I want to talk a little bit more about your publishing journey.
So just write, actually.
Just write?
Like get the thoughts out of your head, put them down, and then a couple of weeks after go back and just finesse it and put it down again and just get the thoughts out. It's not as hard as we think it is, so just write.
But how easy is that for you when there are just so many distractions? There's social media, there's 24-hour news cycle. There are just so many things going on. How do you block everything out just to be able to write?
Make writing your escape, actually. So a lot, maybe like an hour or 2 hours a day and probably that's a bit much, but like 2 hours a week where you literally just pour into whatever you're writing. And then that will help you to come back to it every single time. So just write.
Do you write at a set hour every day?
Most of my writings come in the evening, actually. Like once I get home from work and I'm detoxing from the day, and it's just let's write. So yes.
That's a good way to detox.
Yes.
to shift your mind into something else. What about publishing? Do you work with a publisher or are you self-published?
So I do work with a publisher. His name is Mario Pacayo. And Mario has been doing the Governor's Summer Reading Challenge. So he knows the industry. He can find me the best printers. And he's really good with finding me illustrators. So I've used the same illustrator for all my books. And he's made the process fun and not as taxing as it can be. I would recommend either one. Self-publishing, you're kind of like more involved, so you have to literally do your own editing. You have to get your illustrators. You have to do all that. So if you have that time, yes. If you don't, just bring somebody on board and trust them. You have to trust them.
So trust is a very important part to this process.
Yes.
Trusting someone to bring your vision to life.
Yes, especially with the illustrations, because it can be interpreted differently. And just by one word could shift the whole drawing. So once you explain your concept, they're the ones that can draw. They're the illustrators. So just trust them.
So for publishing, so you say you work with the same illustrator. So do you have a relationship now with that illustrator? Are you all in sync that when you send something, they get it right away?
In sync, kind of, sort of, yes, because it's still a matter of translation. So where she lives in Cuba, things might read differently or look differently. But once you send your vision and you kind of explain it thoroughly, you can get it on the first try. So it's just been a really fun process.
So how do you share your vision? Do you all communicate by email? Do you sketch? Do you draw? Take photos?
I did not sketch at all. I write. I write. That's my thing. I write. And then based on what it is, I would take pictures so she can kind of see the vision that I have for it, and I send them to her, and she draws. So I write, she draws.
What inspired, what made you think now is a time to tell this story, When Storm Winds Blow? Why now?
That's a good question. So once the hurricane happened, I thought it was like, okay, let me get this done now. And I realized that there was no specific time that needed to be on it. I just knew it needed to be done. So once I had done the whole process and I shared it, I recognized that it's going to transcend year after year after year. So it was almost like delayed but never denied, because it will sit on a bookshelf, literally, somewhere for years to come. So I was really happy that I stuck to it and had that experience.
What I liked about When Storm Winds Blow is that it's really a generational story. It's a multi-generational story because you see the parents, you see the children, you see the pets, you know, you see the family. Was that important to you?
Yes, because I grew up with a mother, father, and brothers. Well, one brother actually. So
the brother who is not Sabrina.
The brother who is not Sabrina, yes. So sharing that through my experience, and I know not all families look alike, but really giving children a visual of what they can aspire to was really important for me.
Is there a favorite passage from When Storm Winds Blow that you can share with our audience?
Oh, definitely. When storm winds blow. Heavy rains and storms sometimes pass our islands between June and November. When they pass, they leave us with a lot to remember. Before the storm winds blow, we must take time to prepare. We each have tasks to get done so we can be ready for the storm without fear. We fill our cars with gas and visit the grocery store to shop. We buy water, canned food, ice, batteries, and even a mop. We go to church and pray for safety before, during, and after the storm. The weatherman gives us updates over the radio, television, and online so we can stay informed. We secure our houses and cover up all valuable things. We put many things in large storage bins. We help our neighbors, family, and friends with whatever they need. We even collect books for the children to read. And that section was really good for me, or my favorite, because it shows us how we prepare. So this is all the things that we do, kind of taking a child along that journey. So,
and what I liked about When Storm Winds Blow is that it takes us through the process.
yes.
It takes us through not only getting ready for the storm, and you see the children being involved in getting ready for the storm, but it, in a sense, or when I read it, I felt that there was, an intentionality in allaying fears during the storm. Like, hey, we're all together, we'll be okay. We've prepared, we've done everything we can. and then at the end, there is the beautiful rainbow.
Full circle moment, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Was that the vision that you had in your head when you set out to write it?
So yes and no, because it just came. So the words came first. So it was a matter of, I wanted a full circle moment. And it was really the preparation, the during, the after, to really, as you said, alleviate the fears of what happens after. So of course, at the end of every storm, there must be a rainbow, even in life. So that was important for me to put and include in it.
When you were writing, I noticed in reading it that there is a flow to your words. Would you define yourself as a poet?
I would call myself a poet, yes.
Excellent.
Self-acclaimed poet, yes.
So you're a poet who writes children's
a poet
fiction.
who writes, yes, exactly.
Do you see yourself doing more poetry in the future?
Definitely. So though this is my fourth book, what I recently did was I translated this into Spanish.
Nice.
Yes, and that's a first for me. So, and that in itself was a process to be able to give a Spanish-speaking person an English book for them to translate it, which was really cool, and being able to relate the whole story. So after this, I do want to do what's called a affirmation alphabet, which really empowers children through the alphabet journey, words that will just give them a sense of belonging and understanding. So I'm sure there's a few more books left inside of me somewhere.
Did you work with a translator?
I did.
And how did you find that translator?
She was excited about it. Like, she had way too much fun than I did, because she was able to take the story and give it back, so that the person that was speaking Spanish could be included. And that's really what I wanted for this book, for a level of inclusion across the board. I got a recent question to do it into Patois. And I was like, okay, we could look into that. So that might be a fifth or sixth project that comes. But it was really...
And especially when you consider that we have a growing,
yes,
Haitian
community. So that was fun, having her work with me, to make it make sense for her, to make it make sense for children.
What was, in working with the translator, what was the hardest challenge?
There wasn't a challenge. So actually one of the things that she pointed out was when she read it with the gut, she translated that to be the gutter for the roof. And I was like, oh, I didn't include that, but I should have included that. That could be clear the guts. Right. But I was talking about clearing the guts in the road, but she translated initially to clearing the gutter on the house. So that was pretty cool for me to see the level of translation that she would do based on her own experience.
Do you speak Spanish?
I do not.
So you're Google Translate.
I'm Google Translate. So I have to figure out how to speak it in order to read it possibly, but no, I do not. Only English.
Are you planning to translate any of your other works into Spanish?
I am. I'm going to go back to the first one, which is When I Grow Up, and I'm going to get that one translated too, yes.
So when you connect with your illustrator, your translator, your editor, all of the people involved in bringing your thoughts to completion, is all of that done through your publisher, or do you have to go out and find these people on your own?
That's done through the publisher. So I communicate with him, I give him my vision, I send him, and he connects the dots for me. So that I just write. That's all I do. That's all I do.
So you said that you have more children's books in you, but right now you are working on your affirmation alphabet.
Yes.
What's behind that project?
So I think that we need to be able to reinforce positivity in our schools and our children. So just giving them affirmation cards, because as adults, we see the importance of affirming each other. So why not start by affirming children? And as simple as the alphabet. So each word would have an affirmation for them. Okay,
so I'm Shawna. Starts with S. What's the affirmation for S? Or have you gotten that far in the alphabet?
Shawna would be super.
Oh, I like that.
Or superb. Yep.
What's the hardest letter in your affirmations?
Right now it's Q and Z. It's like trying to find a word. And I have like Z, like you can have zeal, but it's trying to find a word, and then, because I still want it to rhyme, so I kind of want to get the whole alphabet rhyming. So the word has to kind of connect with the one before, and yeah, so that's been a process, but it's been a good process.
So that's your newest challenge?
Yes, that's my newest challenge.
Are you a full-time writer?
Well, I write for work.
Well, yeah, so do I.
I wouldn't consider myself a full-time writer. More like 80%.
So you say you come home after work and writing, creative writing is your detox. How do you balance the demands of work and life with just creative expression.
So it is, and I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it's a thing that you have to work through because formal writing for work is so different. Because you're still bringing about a point, you're making a point come across, but then with children, creative writing is more fun. So you get to play with words and switch it around. But then with writing for work, you really have to focus on the point that you're trying to convey. So it's similar but not the same, but it's still brain work. It's still brain work.
So when you're not writing, what are you reading?
Currently, I'm reading Spare by Prince Harry. I was and still am a fan of his mom. So being able to experience life through his writing has been a whirlwind of a journey for me. So that's what I'm currently processing.
Okay. And would you encourage anyone who thinks that they have a storyteller in them to also read other people's work?
Definitely, because you get to see it through their eyes and perspective. Like, life is a story, one big story, and we tell our stories differently.
Right.
So you'll be inspired by how somebody else tells their story, and then you can be inspired to tell your story. So definitely read other stories so that you can share your story.
So you have established yourself as a children's author, but there's so many more stories to tell. Do you see yourself maybe doing young adult or writing in for any other demographic?
I want to do a quote book at some point, like just quotes that have helped me. Or think the thoughts that come to my mind that I translate into quotes. So probably just a small little handy quote book that people can have in their bags, just to empower them and motivate them throughout the days.
When storm winds blow, is there anything that you said, I don't want to cover this?
No.
So it was just a story that needed to be told.
It needed to be told, and so because I experienced it, and I know that we're going to continue to possibly experience it, it was a story that needed to be told. Yes.
What is the key message of When Storm Winds Blow?
That life is going to have storms, and there's always going to be a rainbow at the end of the storm. It's just about how you prepare and how you go through the storm that helps you to get to the end of the storm.
During the storm, and during the storms that we've, all experienced as people living in the Caribbean, is there any experience where you said, I have to write about this? And did that find its way into When Storm Winds Blow?
So no, because it literally came from inspiration. As I said, I was preparing for the storms. And so it wasn't storms are coming, let me sit down and do this. It was, oh, wait. It just came, so I literally stopped. And then once I did it and I put it down, the zeal to finish it was more important to me because I recognized that it was a story that needed to be shared, and one that will continue to be shared for times to come. So it was a kind of like after you had experienced it and you saw, okay, so I saw what I was able to create, I now needed to share it with others.
So When Storm Winds Blow is obviously about, hurricane preparation, hurricane, recovery. In growing up here in the Caribbean, what experience with a hurricane has impacted you the most?
So I know actually it would have been Irma Maria. It really impacted my family in the BVI because they were like locked out and shut out for a couple weeks. I did lose my home in St. Thomas at the time, but it was the rebounding for me that was a lot more impactful than the actual storm. Being able to rebuild your home, literally help community members around and about you, that whole experience. I know it was treacherous for many, but it was the after that was really important and really impactful for me.
And I think that's the challenge there. We put so much effort into preparing and not really having a sense of what comes next. What would you say to a child who is reading Storm Winds Blow, a child who is sitting down with their parent or guardian reading your book?
I would tell them not to fear. These are natural disasters and they come, as the book said, specific time of year. And once you have your family and you've done all the preparation, you can make it. It'll be fine. You can make it.
So that's the key message of this book. It'll be okay.
A-okay. A-okay.
So for people who are thinking, we always try to encourage are homegrown storytellers. For people who are thinking, who are listening to you, and you've written 4
Yes.
children's books and are now preparing to do an affirmation alphabet, how would you say how would they find their own inspiration? How would you direct other people to seek their own inspiration?
So it has to be that thing that's bugging you all the time, that every time you try to ignore it, you have to go right back to it. Because again, as a child, I wrote as a child. And as an adult, I wrote poems. And then I wrote one book just in my cell phone. So it was a reoccurring something like, are you going to do this? Are you going to do this? So once it's a reoccurring bug in your ear, literally just follow that dream.
Who are your early readers? Who reads your work before you even send it out to the publisher? Is it mom, the brother who is not Sabrina? Who reads your early work?
So I use principals and teachers and children, and I share it with them so that they can give me a sense of, is this working for me? Should I add anything? So my godchildren get to read the first draft, just literally paper draft. And they, especially with this one, helped with well, can we add this? Can we add that? Can the hills be this? Can we see this? So I do have like a circle of readers that would read even before it gets to the publisher. So by the time it gets
People
to the
you
publisher,
trust.
people I trust, that really give their input on it. And that's a really good process because they're literally a round table and I give them copies and they get to read and mark up and, no, don't use this word, use that word. Can you consider this? So that's a good process.
Are you the writer who sits there on the laptop? Are you pen and paper? You talked about writing in your phone. What process works best
I'm a
for
cell
you?
phone writer.
A cell phone writer?
I don't.
I admire the dedication.
Is that thing you're on the bed, you're just typing away, or you're at the beach chilling out and something comes to you? Yeah, I'm a cell phone writer.
So, When Storm Winds Blow, book number 4. Apart from the affirmation alphabet, what can we expect for book number 5?
So I want to do a book about the holidays, actual like Virgin Islands holidays that really explains from January to December the holidays that we celebrate and the meaning behind of them. So I kind of started already. I have all the holidays documented. Again, it's just that, how do I get it to rhyme?
Right.
Yeah.
And rhyming is important.
Rhyming is important.
Because you, Rick Grant, are a poet.
I'm a poet,
You're
yes.
a poet who writes children's books.
I am, yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Rick, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to learn more about our local talent, Rick Grant, and his book, When Storm Winds Blow. All the books featured on this program can be viewed on our website at www.wtjx.org. We appreciate your support of our local authors, and we'll see you next week when we take another book from the Bookcase.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters. This program was underwritten in part by
Janelle Encarnacion Art.
and viewers like